Now that I've got my image on my page, I'm going to continue to work on changing some of the attributes. The first thing I need to do is actually downsize this beautiful picture so it fits better on my page. So remember, you can have multiple attributes within one tag. If I'm looking at this, my tag here is image, and I actually already have my first attribute, which is source equals. And that's telling me again where I'm getting my image. So I need to add a second attribute that happens before the end tag. So before the end tag, I'm going to press space and I'm going to add my second attribute. And I'm going to use width equals and then in quotes because I'm going to change how wide my picture is. Now I have two choices here. I can either change the width of my picture based on a percentage, or I can base it off of the actual image pixel size. I'm going to show you the percentage first because that's a little easier for people to use. So let's just say I want this picture to be 25% of its original width. I would type in 25%. I'm going to do a Control S to save. And if I refresh, it's automatically downsized my picture for me 25% of the original size. The second option, like I said, is that you could actually type in a specific picture size number. Now, that needs to be done by looking at your picture properties. So you'd need to go into Files, and then you would need to right-click on your image and get the image's info. When you get the image info, it will tell you the image dimensions. So over here it says my picture is 1,536 pixels by 2,048 pixels. So I could pick any number in that range and it would resize it down to that number. So for example, let's just say I want it to be 500 pixels wide. I would type in 500 and I'd save. And then when I refresh, my image is going to be 500 pixels wide, and it will automatically size it for me based off of the height. Now, if I wanted to set my height as well, I could. So I could say height equals 500, and I could save, and I could refresh, and it will make it 500 by 500. So you'll see it's a perfect square, but that will distort it. So if you don't want any image distortion, you really only need the one width or height attribute, whichever you'd prefer. And again, you can either use the specific pixel dimensions or you can use the percentage. I sometimes like using the percentage just because, like I said, it's a little easier. I don't have to go into the files and look up the pixel dimensions. But when you need to be precise, typing in the actual pixel dimensions works. The next attribute that we can use is what's called the alt or alternative text attribute. And this is great to use if for some reason your page has some accessibility features where it's not loading pictures, or if you make that mistake of not having your image in the right root folder. So for example, let's say I'm going in here and I'm going to add a second picture right next to Harper's first one. So I do my image, source equals, and I go out to my files and I'm going to look for my next picture that I want to add. And I see it's called harper2.jpg. So I write harper2.jpg. And then I'm going to add my second attribute width. I want to make that 25%. So it's the same size as the first one. And then I add in this alt attribute. So that is alt equals. And again, this is the text that will pop up if your page has accessibility issues or if your image doesn't load. So I'm going to write Harper is stinking cute. All right. Then I'm going to end my tag and I'm going to save. Now, when I refresh, right now I've got a box here and it says Harper is stinking cute. That's because that's what I wrote in my alt tag. Now remember, the reason my picture isn't showing up here is because Harper 2 was still hanging out in downloads. I hadn't moved it to my root folder. If I go ahead and I move Harper 2 into my test website root folder and I refresh, all of a sudden I'll see Harper right there. And I won't necessarily see that alt tag. It is good practice to have an alt tag on every single image just in case it doesn't load. So I'm going to go up to my first picture and I'm going to add alt equals and then in quotes. Again, this would be what is kind of a caption for my picture if for some reason that doesn't load. So Harper is in a dress.